this life. In this life. It's not my fault for me. My devotees burn you, crush you, destroy you.
They start whenever?
Yeah.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Acharya Ashtotera Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
We're happy to do class early, it's like there to get class at night.
Okay, no worries.
You told me you actually didn't want to.
I heard that too. That's okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devam Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Udhirayet. Nashtapreshu Bhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana-timirandasya Niranjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karahmayam Tadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagarashatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parishana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshri Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripre Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Alrighty, today is March 24th, 2026, and we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 2, Verse 17. And I think this is prose, so I'm just going to kind of read it, and then, maybe no reply. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ittilalan Nunayati Visharato Gramaya Vaidadhyaya Paribhashaya Tam Vibhuda Vidhum Vibhuda Matir Adhisabhajayam Asha. Cool. And then word for word, please repeat after me. Shri Shuka Uvacha Shukadev Goswami said,
Srimad Goswami said,
Iti,
"Iti,
thus, Lalana,
Alana,
woman,
woman,
Anunaya,
Anunaya,
in winning, over, Ati Visharadha,
Vishwaradaha,
very expert,
very expert,
Gramya Vaidagdhyaya, expert in fulfilling one's material desires,
expert in most material desires,
Paribhashaya, by selected words,
selected words,
Tam,
Tam,
her,
her,
Vibudha Vadhum, the celestial girl,
the celestial girl,
Vibudha Matihi, Agnidra, who possess intelligence like that of the demigods, Adhis Sabhajayam Asha, gained the favor of. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Shukadev Goswami continued, Maharaj Agnidra, whose intelligence was like that of a demigod, knew the art of flattering women to win them to his side. He therefore pleased that celestial girl with his lusty words and gained her favor. All right, please repeat after me. Shukadev Goswami continued, Maharaj Agnidra, whose intelligence was like that of a demigod, knew the art of flattering women to win them to his side. He therefore pleased that celestial girl with his lusty words and gained her favor. A purport. Since King Agnidra was a devotee, he actually had no attraction for material enjoyment. But because he wanted a wife for progeny, and Lord Brahma had sent Purvachiti for this purpose, he expertly pleased her with flattering words. Women are attracted by a man's flattering words. One who is expert in this art of flattery is called Vidagdha. Yeah. Yeah, so in this verse, we can see King Agnidra finally chatting up Purvachiti, trying to attract her, try to get married to her through his words. And something that came to mind to me was just like the comparison of like how flattery and flirtation like worked back in like those days versus like in modern times. So it's like when he's flattering her, like it's all like centered around spirituality for the most part, or like dharma. Like, you know, in the previous verses, he was mentioning that he wanted to do like penances and austerities with her, whereas like, you know, in modern times, they're like, hey, you want to come over, Netflix and chill, grab some chicken wings and some Mountain Dew, you know? It's like a completely different vibe. Yeah, I know, it's gross. And also in like the previous verses, like he's somehow still incorporating like Vishnu or Krishna in it. Like he said, my dear friend, what do you eat to maintain your body? Because you are chewing betel, a pleasant scent is emanating from your mouth. This proves that you always eat the remnants of food offered to Vishnu. So he's like glorifying the fact that she's honoring prasadam. And then he says, indeed, you must also be an expansion of Lord Vishnu's body. Your face is as beautiful and pleasing as a lake. Your jeweled earrings resemble two brilliant sharks with unblinking eyes like those of Vishnu, and your own eyes resemble two restless fish. So he's like still somehow like incorporating Krishna in the picture, like God. But I feel like when people are flirting now, like that's the last thing they want to bring. Like that's not something that they want to think about. They know they're being dogs, you know. I also thought it was like interesting that like throughout like his like flattery and flirtation, like he's also like glorifying Krishna's creation, like nature. Like he's bringing in like a lot of elements of like, yeah, like lakes and swans and comparing her features to that. So he's like, you know, glorifying her, but also glorifying like the natural world and Krishna's creation, which is something that I don't think anybody really does these days. And yeah, so Vidagdha, from my understanding, it's flattery, but it doesn't have to just be like flirtatious. Like it could just be like, you know, complimenting. So this made me think about how Krishna is called the Chita, which means infallible. But another meaning of that is like Bhakta Vatsala, which means that he never fails to glorify his devotees. And that's like one of his most endearing features. And so I just had some examples of how Krishna flatters his devotees. So like one that came to mind was like Sudama Brahman. Like, although Sudama was like poor and like he's very humble, like he came to Krishna and Krishna treated him like he was like a glorious king, like the greatest guest like he's ever had. Like he washed his feet, like sat him down and like glorified him basically, and was basically like speaking to him with a great praise and affection and attention. And then you have like the gopis. There's one part of the Bhagavatam that I really liked, like when he's like glorifying the gopis and like showing his affection to them. He says, "My dear girls, understanding that simply for my sake you had rejected the authority of worldly opinion of the Vedas and of your relatives, I acted as I did only to increase your attachment to me. Even when I removed myself from your sight by suddenly disappearing, I never stopped loving you. Therefore, my beloved gopis, please do not harbor any bad feelings toward me, your beloved." So he's basically just like confessing his love for him and like explaining how he's like being a rascal just to like kind of get them to love him even more, while also like glorifying them. Then you have like Arjuna, like Krishna describes how he's like, "I'm revealing to you the most confidential knowledge, and it's because you're my devotee and my friend." So he's like, elevating Arjuna like among like all the others present, and he's like emphasizing like their intimate relationship, and yeah, basically just glorifying him and showing his affection to him, showing that he like trusts Arjuna with this knowledge. And at first glance, it like kind of seems like, why is he giving Arjuna special treatment? Like, what about everybody else? But Krishna is impartial. He just like reciprocates. Like Arjuna's just like choosing to like engage in his relationship with Krishna, and so he's giving him this knowledge. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 29, Krishna says, "Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshasti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapiyaham," which means I envy no one, I am equal to all, I am partial to no one, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So basically it's like, if we're rendering service to Krishna, he's going to be friendly towards us like Arjuna, and he's going to also have that same type of, glorification mood. And it makes sense because like, devotees like all day are just glorifying Krishna, and he reciprocates. So obviously he's going to glorify us as well and treat us with affection. Another example of Krishna's glorification that I thought was interesting was Srila Prabhupada. So it's like Krishna came down as Lord Chaitanya, and he could basically just like liberate the entire world and just like end everything, bring everybody back home to Godhead. But then he like continues like the Leela and gives like his devotees a chance to participate just so he can like glorify them. So like Srila Prabhupada came over here, opened all these temples and spread Krishna consciousness to all these people, just so, Krishna wanted to arrange that just so he could glorify Srila Prabhupada and like show his affection to him. And there are some other examples of Krishna like using flattery, but not towards devotees, but to like demons and stuff too. And I remember Lalita Priya mentioned like was it Banasura with the demon that like Krishna like danced or whatever and like got him to touch his head and he like annihilated himself. That was an interesting one, but I was thinking of like Vikrasura. So with Vikrasura, that pastime, there's like this big demon and he's basically trying to get some boons from Lord Shiva. And so he starts like cutting off his own flesh, like performing all these like ghastly sacrifices just so he can get a boon. And he was like, right about when he was prepared to like cut off his head so that he could offer it to Lord Shiva, like Lord Shiva came down like out of compassion and was basically like, all right, you don't need to do that. Let me give you your boon. And he said, and then he got his boon from Lord Shiva and he basically just like chased him all around the universe trying to like touch his head, trying to explode him. And Shiva like didn't know what to do. He went to all the demigods, he went to Lord Brahma, he went to everybody else, and no one wanted to help him. He was there basically like, we can't do anything. So finally, like he approached Lord Narayan in the form of a Brahmana, and Lord Narayan basically just tries to sweet talk the demon into killing him. And he said, "My dear Lord, if you think that you can disclose the mission for which you have taken the trouble to come here, maybe I shall be able to help you so that your purpose will be easily served. So he's calling like my dear Lord, like this demon. So he's like buttering him up. And then he's like, indirectly, this is from Krishna book, it says, indirectly, the Lord informed him that because the Lord is the supreme Brahman, he would certainly be able to adjust the awkward situation created by Lord Shiva. And then it says, the demon was greatly pacified by the sweet words of Lord Narayan in the form of a brahmachari. And at last, he disclosed all that had happened in regard to the benediction offered by Lord Shiva. The Lord replied to the demon as follows, I myself cannot believe that Lord Shiva has in truth given you such a benediction. As far as I know, Lord Shiva is not in a sane mental condition. When he had a quarrel with his father-in-law, Daksha, he was cursed to become a pishacha, a ghost. Thus he has become the leader of the ghosts and hobgoblins. Therefore, I cannot put any faith in his words. But if you still have faith in the words of Lord Shiva, my dear king of the demons, then why don't you make an experiment by putting your hand on your own head? If the benediction proves false, then you can at once kill this liar, Lord Shiva, so that in the future he will not dare give out false benedictions. It says, in this way, by Lord Narayan's sweet words, and by the expansion of his superior illusion, the demon became bewildered, and he actually forgot the power of Lord Shiva in his benediction. He was thus very easily persuaded to put his hand on his head, and as soon as the demon did, his head cracked as if struck by a thunderbolt, and he immediately died. I thought that's pretty amazing. He basically just like dissing Shiva like right in front of him just to kind of like win over Vritrasura's like affection, and it worked. He just killed himself.
I feel like Lord Shiva should maybe be a little cautious about granting those.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why he keeps doing that. I guess it's all just part of like his little Leela. Interesting. And one verse from the Bhagavad Gita that I thought like thought of in connection to all this was 4.8. It is parichanaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. And he says that he to deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, and reestablish religious principles, he appears millennium after millennium. And so you can see that in all these interactions, like with his devotees, like when he flatters them, he comes to like please them. And you know, with Vritrasura, like he's protecting Lord Shiva, which is like one of his greatest devotees, and he's killed, like annihilating the miscreants, which is Vritrasura. So he's killing them and, you know, establishing religious principles. And
Vritrasura.
I thought it's Vrikasura. Oh, Bricka. Oh, yeah, B and V is sometimes spaced.
Vritra.
Oh, right. That's all good. But yeah, and I always like that verse, like Prachanaya Sadhu numbers, I always find like applies to almost everything Krishna does. Like you can always like frame it in terms of that. Like everything he does is like, you know, contained in that one verse, which is interesting. It's like, you know, Krishna's words is the absolute truth. So it's like, you know, he's always, you know, executing his words and his mission with all his actions. And there's also Narada Muni, who's one of Krishna's great devotees, and he also like uses flattery a lot to get his way. So, you know, with Kamsa, Vasudeva like had his first like child, and Kamsa, and Vasudeva like in good faith like showed Kamsa and was like, look, you can have my first child, and Kamsa was basically like, no, it's okay. I'm worried about your 8th child, so it's okay, you can keep it. And then Narada Muni came down and was basically like, no, these demigods, they're tricky. They're basically trying to fool you. And when he was talking to him, he's like, oh, King of Kings. And he was like trying to like disarm him, like glorifying him so that he would listen to him. So you can see like flattery is a very effective strategy. Yeah, and another part of this verse that I was thinking about is like how, you know, on the surface, it seems like he's like flattering and using like lusty words, like that's not very Vaishnava. But then in the purport, it says that it wasn't for material enjoyment. It's actually like to execute his dharma as a householder. And this kind of reminded me of a class that I heard in Mayapur by Devaki Devi Dasi. Really? Oh yeah, that's right. But she had a lot of things to say about like the Grihastha ashram, which I thought was like interesting in connection to this verse. So she was basically like suggesting that like, you know, when you're in a relationship with somebody and you're married, like you don't necessarily need to like suppress like your affection for your significant other. Like the purpose of that ashram is to like, you know, fulfill those desires in a Krishna conscious way, like with Krishna and your practice of Krishna consciousness still like in the center. But it's like, if you're going to go into the marriage ashram, then you should like use it properly. Like if you don't go in with the idea that you're going to like have some level of like physical intimacy or like affection with your partner, then it's like you've chosen the wrong ashram, right? Like you should have just become a brahmachari. So sometimes like people like they'll get into like a relationship and then they think, okay, no, I can't like, show affection to my wife or like show any physical intimacy or like have any emotional connection because it's like a subtle form of sex life. But, in another sense, that can actually like hinder your Krishna consciousness because you're supposed to be in that ashram in order to like experience that and kind of like get it out of your system. And she made a really good point. She was saying that marriage life is meant to be like a conjugal relationship. Like it's not like a brother-sister relationship. So like if you're married to someone, like it's kind of like expected that you're going to have, like you can like hug or kiss them or like flatter them. Yeah, just like within the frame of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, so like sometimes people, they'll get into, like they'll have be like brahmachari in their mindset, but then they'll have like a lusty moment. They're like, I need to get married. But like deep down, they're actually like they're meant to be a brahmachari. So then they get married. And then after they get like their urges out of the way, like after like the first month or so, now they're just like, all right, now I'm stuck with this person. And now what do I do? Now I have to spend my whole life like doing family life. And in reality, like that's not actually what their consciousness or their nature is like geared towards. So I feel like we should probably be very careful, like going full on into an ashram because it's a whole lifelong commitment, right? And it does seem like a more difficult ashram, like being a grihasta, right? That's like, if we're addicts of Maya, and like the greatest Maya is like sex life, and you have it like right there, it's like, it just makes spiritual advancement more difficult. But at the same time, it's like if you need to like exercise that and get it out of your system, then that's valid. But she also like was basically propounding like the idea that like if you go into marriage, that you should have like the end in mind. So like you should go in both planning for the Vanaprastha ashram. So like going in with like the right idea, because sometimes you'll go in, you'll get married, and you don't even like consider the fact that like your affection's going to wear off, and at some point you're both going to just want to sit down and like focus on Krishna consciousness. So she was basically suggesting that it's good to start from the beginning and have that in mind. And then she was also saying that like, once it comes to the point where it's like, the hugging and the kissing and the flattery just wears off and you're like, that's enough now. And like, that's like when you enter the Vanaprastha ashram, which I thought made sense. And she was like warning about how like, if you don't go into your marriage with Vanaprastha in mind, then it's like, by the time like you get to that point, like the other person like might be like too attached to you, like when you're planning on leaving, or like they might not be financially or materially set up, and there could just be like more room for like heartbreak or distress, and that could just ultimately be a hindrance to spiritual advancement. So it's important to plan for that. And another part of this verse that I thought was interesting was how like we can't really judge things on the surface. So like in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that King Agnija actually had no material like motive. It was completely just to like fulfill his dharma. So I was thinking that it's interesting how like Vaishnavas are very mysterious in general. It's like on the surface, like they're performing like mundane seeming activity, like they're washing plates, they're like chanting and like just saying words and dancing around, but like there's actually like a whole other world like internally. And so I was thinking, it's like, if we saw Agnija speaking like this without context, like what would we think? Like, what would you think if you just saw someone like him, just like flirting, talking about her water jug breasts and like all these things,
Probably avoid him.
Right.
What do you think?
Probably avoid him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we would think they're like a womanizer, like they're just trying to grab him.
Sounds like a conversation.
Yeah, so like a classic Vasasana conversation. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like Vaishnavas, like they might be doing one thing like on the surface, but like internally, like they're doing another thing. So we can't always judge them properly.
Well, someone came to this class right now and they were hearing us read about the water jug breast.
Yeah, they would. Right, and that's another part too. It's like there's a whole context behind things, like when people act. So it's like unless you know the
Yes, so like twice for one of these classes.
yeah, there's completely new people and they just like right. Right. Yeah, like one thing in connection to this, like I drive Uber now, so I can kind of like practice preaching, give out books and prasadam, make some money to fund myself. And sometimes I'll drive people and they just like reek of weed, like it just like fills up the whole car. And it's like sometimes I'm like I finished doing the Uber and my car smells like weed, and I'm about to go to the temple. I'm like, man, I'm gonna smell like weed now, and everybody's gonna think I'm smoking weed again, and like all this stuff. But so like I've always like sometimes worry like if people don't have the full context of like what I'm doing, then they might think something otherwise. Or like when I first started practicing, I was really addicted to coffee, so then I switched to like decaf, and I would drink decaf, but then I would look at other people. I'm like, oh, they're gonna think I'm drinking normal coffee. And so like internally, I'm like, they're gonna judge me. And I don't have the time to explain it to them. But then like I shouldn't feel self-conscious about it because I know what I'm doing is okay. It's like not caffeinated. So then there's like all these weird things, and it's just like at some point you're just like, okay, whatever. Krishna knows. But then it's like you should be somewhat hesitant because it can be unfavorable for you if they like think of you like the wrong way, and then they start treating you bad. So like sometimes it's like maybe it is good to kind of like hide your decaf coffee so they don't like act weird.
Without our pundit, didn't want people to know he was.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or like with Gurudev, like he has like heart issues, and so like sometimes he has to drink coffee to like get his heart rate up. But then if it's like you see a guru like drinking some coffee like out of context, like not knowing his health issues, like you might think it's like what's going on here, but it's actually to help his Krishna consciousness because he needs it for his health. Yeah, have you guys had any of those moments where it's like you're doing something where like externally it seems like, what is this guy doing? This isn't Krishna conscious, but like internally it's actually okay. Do you have any examples of that? Yes.
I have a lot of things. Breaking into someone's house.
Oh yeah.
Taking a cat and doing a cat abortion. Weird stuff. But I was gonna say there's one, you made a really nice point about like how like we can't, like it's okay to care about our reputation. Nothing wrong with that because that's also Krishna conscious. And there's so many examples in the CC where Lord Chaitanya is like, I don't want to do this. It looks bad because I'm a sannyasi.
Right.
And Gadadhar Pandit was, he was being accosted by one of the acharyas, the Prabhu who's in charge of the whole Pushti marg. I forgot his name for some reason, it's slipping my mind.
Was it Vishnu? No.
He was very famous devotee, very great devotee, but he was coming to Gadadhar Pandit and saying, I want to read you these commentaries I'm writing. They were kind of offensive, and so Gadadhar Pandit was like trying to avoid these scenes. I don't want the devotees to see me with you.
Oh, right.
And so it's actually is Krishna conscious.
Right. Or like we're brahmacharis, so it's like sometimes you're gonna have to preach to like a woman. It's like someone can see you like talking to a girl and like out of context, like, hey, why is Kirtan flirting with that girl over there?
Or when they try to accost you, take pictures. You probably didn't have to because you look Indian, but
right.
For the Western brahmacharis, it's like, can you take a picture with my daughter?
Right.
It's like 17 years old.
Yeah.
It happens to me a lot because in a lot of things that we do, I'm usually like the only girl.
Right.
And I'm just surrounded by all these boys,
Yeah.
Oh well.
We all judge you for it. I hope you know that.
I know, you all are judging me. Although Kirtan repeatedly says that I'm not a lady, I'm not a woman. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I was just like thinking of some examples of this. So like you have Arjuna. Like externally, it's like you have this warrior that's killing his relatives, killing his gurus, killing his friends. But in reality, like he's acting under Krishna's direction. So like unless people actually know like what's going on and like why he's like acting the way he's doing, like knowing his intent, it can seem like he's just like a violent warrior, But he's actually acting like perfectly within religion or dharma. And you also have like the gopis. Like the gopis like left their families, their husbands to go with Krishna in the forest. Like that's pretty far out. Like they're breaking like all sorts of like social orders and like chastity seeming from the outside, but in reality it's like the greatest like selfless service. They're just going to please Krishna, which is what we're actually all supposed to do. And then you have like Bali Maharaj, like he straight up like rejected his guru's orders when Lord Vamana came, and he decided to like surrender to Vamana Dev, and so he decided to choose Krishna over his guru. But you know, from another point of view, you could see, oh, he's rejecting his guru. That's bad. But yeah, right. But yeah, like our intent matters more than anything. Or like you have like Shukadev Goswami. Like Shukadev Goswami would just like walk around naked. Like if someone normally saw that, they'd be like, okay, this is just like an insane person. But he's actually like an extremely enlightened, self-realized person. So it's like Vaishnavas can break social and like moral codes from the outside, but actually in reality, they're acting completely within their dharma, or they're expressing like higher spiritual truths. Like Shukadev Goswami knew he wasn't his body, so he didn't really have much bodily consciousness, and it was okay for him to do that. And yeah, we also have Narada Muni. Like he advised Kamsa to kill Vasudev's children, pretty much. Like that seems pretty evil. It's like why would someone like an enlightened sage like guide a demon on killing like this devotee's kids? Like that seems pretty far out. But then in actuality, like Narada Muni was trying to accelerate Lord Krishna's like appearance, so that you know if Krishna appears sooner, then he can annihilate more demons and like reestablish dharma quicker, please his devotees. So he's actually like working in favor of Krishna and dharma. And then you have, even when like Vaishnavas are acting and their intention isn't like fully pure or complete, like they still have a lot of spiritual potency, and they're still like acting as like a purifying force. So like, Ajamil, when he was getting taken by the Yamadutas and he cried out his child's name, Narayan, like he wasn't meaning to call out like the actual Lord Narayan, but despite that, like he still got purification and was like freed from the demons. And Putana too. So it's like Putana went to go feed Krishna like poisoned like breast milk. So she was like came in with like pretty evil intent, but because it was like in relation to Krishna and it was still an offering, like it still had like the potency of like an act of devotion. Yeah. And one thing that I thought about in connection to this concept of like Vaishnavas externally seeming like mundane maybe, but internally like having like a big impact, was like, I tried to like frame that through the concept of Rita. And so in the Rig Veda, there's this concept of Rita, which is basically means the concept of cosmic order, truth, natural law governing the universe, ensuring the harmony of nature and moral order. And it represents the underlying unavoidable rhythm of existence, encompassing physical laws like seasons, tides, moral laws, virtue, and it's actually like it's what comes the predecessor of Dharma. So Dharma comes from Rita. And so a devotee, when they're acting for Krishna, they're acting in complete harmony with like the ultimate order of the cosmos. So it's like each time like you perform like an act of bhakti or you're chanting Hare Krishna, there's like some element of like stability that's being added to the universe. So it's like, you might see like a bhakta in the temple just like sweeping some dust, but they're doing it for Krishna. And because they're doing it for Krishna, like their action is completely aligned with like Krishna's will. And so in that sense, like they're adding purification to the surrounding environment. Or like, you're chopping vegetables in the kitchen, but you're doing it for Krishna. So, there's lots of, yes, Lolita.
Wasn't there, I remember two separate things that Srila Prabhupada had once instructed, he had instructed one of his disciples to go somewhere to, further preaching or open a center or something like that. And the disciple said something like, well, there was nothing to eat there. He would, there was only meat to eat there. And then
Right.
Prabhupada was like, well, then eat meat, but go and do it.
Right.
And then there was another thing that I remember where they're having some event for some group of people, and they say like they won't come if we don't serve me,
Right.
and yeah, okay, it was Bhakti Siddhanta. Yeah, and so then they did, right?
Right.
And so So, I mean, I think, anyone looking at those things from the wrong perspective would think, oh, well, this is very hypocritical.
Right,
or,
exactly.
But really it was just to facilitate the greater good.
Yeah.
And ultimately, try to bring more people to this path where there would not be eating meat.
Right, exactly. It's like sometimes like we have to like be willing to break like some rules and regulations for like a higher good, or like to fulfill the purpose of those rules. Yes.
Well, I don't know where we're doing that like that style. Like Gurudev does like that style, but you might.
Yeah, no, I like that
I
stuff.
don't usually do that. So I was going to say, there's a verse by Rupa Goswami where he says that, at the same time, we're talking Sukadev Goswami, we're talking Nityananda Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada. At the same time, we also understand there's a verse that says, devotional service not done in accordance with the Vedas, the Pancharatrika, the Tantras, and, the scriptures. Basically, the general laws of conduct is a disturbance to society. And so we can also see that too, that someone may, in a sense, they come and have a lot of devotion or something, but they don't want to follow like the rules of the society. It becomes a disturbance, and it becomes displeasing to the general assembly of devotees, and then therefore they don't actually please Krishna.
Right.
There's that other element of we follow, Arjuna was still fighting, even a fighter, he was fighting for Krishna, but he was still a Kshatriya. And so of course we understand that devotional service is higher, but generally we try to follow the rules of Dharma as an offering to Krishna, because we're not on the level of a Paramahamsa. We're brahmachari, so we have brahmachari Dharma, or a grihasta, we have grihasta Dharma. And so we try to follow those rules nicely. Whereas Nityananda Prabhu, no one could tell if he was a brahmachari, no one could tell if he was a sannyasi, and then he got married.
Right.
But he was also Nityananda Prabhu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so many of the things he did, it's, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's so many amazing far out pastimes that anyone looking at that didn't understand would be like, wow, this is a madman,
You can understand what numbers doing the breast milk commodity.
Yeah, that one was so far out.
So,
Or like he'll just like undress and stand naked in front of Lord
Yeah.
Chaitanya.
throwing all the food around.
dressing them, throwing milk cakes as my.
That's so interesting. But yeah, I mean, similar to like what you're saying, like in the Gita, Krishna says, Yasman no dvijate loka no dvijate chaya. And I think that was basically, he says like, we shouldn't put anyone into anxiety, and like we shouldn't be put into anxiety by anyone. And like that makes you dear to Krishna. So like we should follow like the laws and like, social codes, so that we're not putting people into distress or like bewildering them, putting them into anxiety. It seems like that's something that Krishna does care about.
Krishna was always setting that example. Or Chaitanya and Krishna both, they were always following.
Right.
For example, would be perfect Kshatriya, perfect Brahmana, perfect Grihasta, perfect Sannyasi.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in connection to this, from Canto 4, Chapter 29, verse 46. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always thinking of how the fallen conditioned souls can be delivered. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, influenced by the merciful devotees' attempt to deliver fallen souls, enlightens the people in general from within by his causeless mercy. If a devotee is blessed by another devotee, he becomes free from karma kanda and gyan kanda activities, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Vedeshu Durlabham. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be realized through karma kanda and gyan kanda. Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. The Lord is realized only by a sincere devotee. So this purport is saying that, like, if a devotee has like the desire to spread Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will like arrange everything to do that. Like he'll actually enlighten people from within, like that you're speaking to, or like your family. Like I feel like most people here, like as they became devotees, like their family became more God conscious, or like at least more health conscious, started to become like more vegetarian, that kind of thing. Like I know my family, like they started to pick up their religion more when I started practicing this. But what about you guys?
My whole family became vegetarian, and my brother and my mom.
Does she chant and everything too?
She chants once in a while. She'll chant in the kirtan.
That's cool.
And she gives immense donation to the temple by supporting my preaching.
Yeah.
Like thousands of dollars. Preaching helps.
What about you, Lolita? How did your family react to you becoming devotee?
I mean, I think for the most part, my family doesn't really care. But my aunt and my cousin have come here several times, and and
Louisa's ex put her in an insane asylum.
yeah,
Becoming a devotee.
that's true. Yeah, my ex did have me committed because I became a devotee, and I thought, this is a really strong reaction. But then I found out that their ex-wife also had become a devotee, and so then I thought, and then I started laughing. I said, "Well, I guess you have a type then, huh?"
Right.
So that explained the strong reaction. But my aunt and my cousin, they come sometimes, and then my cousins even start reading the Bhagavad Gita. And my aunt, she watched the Prabhupada movie, what is it, Hare Krishna, the mantra, the something, the Swami that started it all.
Right.
She actually watched that movie twice. She just liked it so much, So, and she bought, I think, 2 separate little Krishna deities or murtis, and she has them in her house. Huh? Yeah. So I mean, and then my other cousin, who's also a friend of Kirtan Ishwar's family, she's wearing Tulsi beads that he gave to his aunt, right? And then
she's got that cousin, my aunt's daughter.
And then she gave them to my cousin. So and then when that happened, I brought Tulsi beads for everybody. So they're wearing them.
Yeah. How about you, Damodar Prabhu?
I think, being a devotee in the early 70s and back then, it was much more, back then it was like pretty out there to be a devotee.
Right.
But the people that stuck it out gained the respect of their families. It was over time.
Right.
So it's different now. It's 50 years ago it was almost like if you were a devotee then, it was almost like you're saying like you were gay.
Right.
It was that unaccepted.
Wow.
Or that,
that far out.
That judged. So yeah, but over time, the devotees are known as the best vegetarian cooks. They've proved themselves over time. So people have much more respect for them now than they used to. So, it's deserved.
Yeah. Did your family change at all? Did they change their behaviors?
Not really. They've all had prasadam. My mom and dad have passed,
right.
But my brother and sister, they know that I'm a devotee, and Divya, they know about it, and they accept it. It was gradual.
Right.
It was gradual. So it's a little different now. It's more quickly accepted now.
Yeah.
And it's more mainstream now. Everybody knows about the devotees now.
Right.
So that's just my observation.
Cool. How about you, Mridanga?
Well, I have I should have not. Well, I have a sister. She's a Christian, but she's not a fanatic Christian. She listens to Krishna consciousness. She doesn't argue or anything like that. She just listens to it and kind of she was just brought up going to church and stuff like that. Both of my parents are gone now. They were not into it at all. They couldn't understand it. It was too far out, too weird for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. What about you, Garanga?
Yeah, when I first started coming, my mom was cool with it because she always knew I was into deeper spirituality and I would read into different practices and different religions and stuff. But my grandma and my grandpa swore I was joining a cult. And they told me not to eat the food, not to drink anything from here, things like that. But now, funny enough, my grandma's the most supportive of it. She'll comes and visits me. She'll come to our program sometimes. She loves when I make Prasadam. Sometimes during Kartik, if I go to spend the night there, I'll do a deep offering and she'll do it with me. My sister too, she joins in on some of it. She likes Krishna. And besides just like my family, my friends, when I first started coming, weren't so sure what I was doing, but they knew I was trying to dedicate my life to God.
Right.
And then it was cool because even though they didn't choose the Krishna conscious path, like according to like Gaudiya Vaishnavism or anything like that, they started going to church suddenly, even though like they weren't really into that before. And I saw a lot of my friends start actually taking it up seriously, and one of them took it up very seriously. And he tries to take it up, going to church, doing services at the church, singing at church, doing a lot of things there. So it's cool to see that while I was coming here.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then it ripples out too, right? Like your friend that got really into Christianity, like I'm sure like all his surrounding circles start to also probably get affected, you know?
Yeah, interestingly enough, a lot of the kids I grew up with and went to school with, a lot of them became Christians, and some of them actually gave up doing the nonsense that they used to do back in high school.
Right.
Yeah, and my family also, they managed to really amp up their attendance of like Christian churches and stuff like that too. And my cousin's son, so he's my second cousin, he actually married a very faithful girl who works for her church, and I was really impressed. I mean, she even saved herself for marriage and everything, which is very rare these days, you know.
Right.
So I was shocked to hear that. You know, I was just like, wow. So suddenly the whole family just got a little more
into
a little
God.
more godly.
That's awesome.
So,
What about you, Chandrika?
Well, when I was really young, we used to go to this Portobello Market in London, which is kind of very near Berry Place, when the devotees first used to go there. And so they used to do Harinam up and down the market. It's kind of a bit of a weird market, but we lived near there and used to go there every Saturday. And so they used to do Harinam, and I was about 5 or something. And so anyway, my mom and everyone would stop, there's Hare Krishna, so get really absorbed. And so it's kind of like, for my mother, it's not weird, and she was, you know, into the Beatles and all that as well, so, and George Harrison. So, and as I got older and I got into it, I first became a vegetarian through my sister, actually, because she became a vegetarian. She's 4 years older, but she became when she was like 18. And then when she saw me eating meat, she chastised me so badly, like, because we went on this little mini vacation together, and she just really laid into me, you know. So I thought I was temporarily off meat.
Right.
And then I couldn't get on it again. And then anyway, then I became a devotee. So, but my niece, which is her daughter, actually went to Krishna Village in Australia and did a whole thing. So she kind of got into that, and they were raised vegan too, so they've never eaten meat anyway. And so all my family is very favorable. They're not, you know, like, they haven't dived into it, but they don't think it's weird, or my mother, I speak to her like almost every day, and she always says Hare Krishna. I say Hare Krishna, she says Hare Krishna. Actually, there's been a couple of times where she said it first. You know? So I was like, oh yeah, Hare Krishna. So yeah, my mother, and she's, you know, towards the last stage of life too, and every time she said. Right. And now she says to me, the way she says Ishmael Puri, she says, where's Ishmael Pur, or something like that. She says like that. She says, where is, because she knows he's with me. And I'm like, oh, he's here. And then I go and I say, he says Hare Krishna to her, you know, of course, you know, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. So yeah.
right, yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's cool to see. Yes, Lita.
Oh, you can go ahead. I just had a comment about another topic. But go ahead.
I was just gonna like acknowledge that it's like interesting to see like how spiritually advancing like propagates. You know what I mean? Cool. What were you gonna say?
So I was thinking about, we're talking about flattery, and then how, how much of an influence flattering words can have, and I think it's like kind of important to remember that. Don't be flattering disingenuously, but like try to speak sweetly. It works much better than, chastising somebody or something like that. You catch more flies with honey.
Right.
And I mean, and then flattery for some people is like, a way of life. And so this made me think of our president, Donald Trump, and how there's been several so-called awards made that were just made for him, so that like these groups that were trying to lobby him for something came and gave him a special award because they knew if they flattered him, then he's more likely to give them what they want. And so
That's smart.
yeah, and so I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So at the level of president, that's something that's he's so easily swayed by that.
Right.
But I mean, that flattery is very, very powerful.
Yeah, very powerful.
So.
Parameshwar, I think he was one of the top book distributors, or maybe the top book distributor. But he was saying that like when he compliments someone, like he does it like 3 times, and if he does that, then they have like a 60% or 70% more chance that they're gonna actually like buy a book.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an effective strategy.
And Ganganath Prabhu, who was also a very good book distributor, everybody that was here watching him knows he would be like, "Miss, you look like the goddess of the universe," or something like that, or whatever it is. He would give some flattery to everybody, not just women, men too, and he was very successful. So I'm sure it definitely helped.
And it seems like a good practice too, because like when you like compliment someone, like give them a genuine compliment, then it's like you start to become more fixed on people's good qualities in general, right?
Yeah.
It's like you just start seeing things through the lens of like people's good qualities. Like the more you like try to make them more pronounced, or like try to recognize them. Yeah. Cool.
It disarms them.
Yeah, exactly. It disarms them. Yes, Chandrika.
I was thinking about, what you mentioned earlier, like, like people get together or they get married and they hug and kiss and then like towards the end, I mean, it really shouldn't be that way that, like by the end, we're kind of sick of each other.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and also I think really it can be a very spiritual experience, because it doesn't have to be a lusty,
right.
The act could be there, but it's what's in the mind. Mm-hmm. So, why not continue being loving to your partner? There's nothing wrong with that. And we shouldn't think that way as devotees, that we shouldn't be that way, because we're about love, and there's, it's like if you have an animal, like have a cat, you stroke your cat, they want that love. There's that connection there. And so people the same way, we want love. There's nothing wrong with that. But of course there is etiquette. You don't just do that in public either, you in your own home, but you do it without the form of such lust. So otherwise it's like, okay, now our relationship's over, it's gotten really dull, and it shouldn't, we should be staying alive. Just like when we're chanting, we don't go, oh, I've been doing this for X amount of years, so now it shouldn't get dull. It should actually get better. The love should get stronger.
Sure.
And so, like I said, but there is etiquette. We very, we should be very conscious of how we are presenting ourselves like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for sharing. Cool. Well, does anybody have any questions or any last comments? Yeah, cool. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.